And we're going to go to Bernie's press conference. We'll be right back with you.
Sure.
Hang on.
Absolutely.
This is one of Bernie's campaign guys, apparently.
Morning, everybody. How are you? Quite a crew. 2 months ago, shortly after our digital vendor, who conducts modeling for our campaign, told us that there was a failure in the firewall that prevents campaigns from seeing one another's data, we contacted the DNC and told them about this failure. We were very concerned that our data had been compromised, and we were assured at that time that the firewall between the campaign's data would be restored. We are actually very confident that at that time some of our data was lost to one of the other campaigns. Instead, we found out 2 days ago that once again this sensitive and important data was compromised because the DNC and its vendor failed to protect it. We have invested enormous campaign resources in acquiring the rights to use this proprietary data. But the DNC, in an inappropriate overreaction, has denied us access to our very own data. This is data collected by hundreds of thousands of volunteers across America. This database for our campaign is funded by the over 2 million contributions that this campaign has received from people all across the country. Let me briefly discuss 3 issues involved in this matter. First, as I pointed out earlier, this is not the first time that the vendor hired by the DNC and the DNC to run the voter file program, NGP VAN, has allowed serious failures to occur. On more than one occasion, they have dropped the firewall between the data of competing Democratic campaigns. This is dangerous incompetence. It was our campaign months ago that alerted the DNC to the fact that the campaign data was being made available to other campaigns. At that time, our campaign did not run to the media, relying instead on assurances from the vendor that the problem would be resolved. Unfortunately, the other day, the vendor once again dropped the firewall between the campaigns for some data. Secondly, after discussion with the DNC, it became clear that some of our staffers irresponsibly accessed some of the data from another campaign. That behavior is unacceptable to the Sanders campaign, and we fired the staffer immediately and made certain that any information obtained was not utilized. We are now speaking to other staffers who might have been involved, and further disciplinary action may follow. Clearly, while the information was made available to our campaign because of the incompetence of the vendor, it should not have been looked at, period. Third, rather incredibly, the leadership of the DNC has used this incident to shut down our ability to access our own information which is the lifeblood of this campaign. This is the information about our supporters, our volunteers, the lists of people we intend to contact in Iowa, New Hampshire, and elsewhere. This is information we have worked hard to obtain. As I mentioned before, this is information gathered by our volunteers across the country, funded by the over 2 million individual contributions we received online. It is our information and the information of all of these volunteers and the people who support our campaign, not the DNC's. In other words, by their action, the leadership of the Democratic National Committe is now actively attempting to undermine our campaign. This is unacceptable. Individual leaders of the DNC can support Hillary Clinton in any way they want, but they are not going to sabotage our campaign, one of the strongest grassroots campaigns in modern history. We are announcing today that if the DNC continues to hold our data hostage and continues to try to attack the heart and soul of our grassroots campaign, we will be in federal court this afternoon seeking immediate relief. What is required here is a full and independent audit of the DNC's mishandling of this data and its security from the beginning of this campaign to the present, including the incident in October that we alerted them to when we are fairly confident that large amounts of our data were sent to another campaign. Thank you very much. This is Brad Deutsch, who represents the campaign on our legal team, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Can you assure the DNC and the Clinton campaign that you will
Bring me back up. This is pretty amazing.
I can tell you that this campaign...
I'm guessing he's pretty much said what he's going to say, and all the questions from the press are going to be further amplifications on this, that, or the other thing. But that's remarkable. So the Sanders campaign has believed since October, or had evidence since October, that their data was snatched by presumably the Clinton campaign. I mean, well, there were other campaigns out there. They're not making that specific allegation, but by another campaign. And they're asserting that they did not take data on this one, and they're firing the guy who did it. This is totally bizarre. Earlier, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was on MSNBC saying, we're going to suspend the access of the Sanders campaign to their own data until we figure out what happened, which might be what, a week, a month, a year. That's just astonishing. There is a petition for it over at moveon.org, although I went to moveon.org and I couldn't find it on their website. But we have tweeted it out. So if you check out, at Thom_Hartmann on Twitter, you will find our tweet out there. And of course, you can check out our chat room at thomhartmann.com. And, if you want to sign that petition, or for that matter, if you want to call Debbie Wasserman Schultz, her D.C. congressional office. Actually, the DNC main number is 202-863-8000. 202-863-8000.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be right back. The telephone number for the DNC, if you want to register your thoughts about this, is 202-863-8000. And welcome back. We still have the video of the press conference. Let's just turn it up and see if anything of consequence is being said right now.
Independent audit of the DNC's handling of data going forward.
Practically, how can this inhibit your campaign from getting out the vote in Iowa?
It's
This is taking our campaign hostage. We have a grassroots campaign, right? So when we have people come to our campaign headquarters to call volunteers or to call voters to talk to them about Bernie Sanders' campaign to transform America, we can't generate phone numbers to do that. It's impossible to mobilize the kind of grassroots campaign we have without access to that data. And we are, because of the nature of our campaign, peculiarly affected by this type of taking of data hostage by the DNC.
Does it make it impossible for you to win?
It does not make it impossible to win, because I think people across this country, and I think we're beginning to see it now already online, are outraged by this conduct by the DNC, which is clearly a heavy-handed attempt to undermine this campaign.
Has the DNC given you any indication how long they plan to freeze your access to their data?
clearly an attempt to undermine the campaign.
How long they're going to freeze our access to our own data? They have not. And that's why we're going to have to go to federal court if this is not resolved very, very shortly to vindicate the rights not only of this campaign, but of the millions of people across this country who want change.
Wow. Once again, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC, she runs it. The telephone number, 202-863-8000. 202-863-8000.
As I mentioned, we are doing an internal investigation. Further disciplinary action may come, depending on what we find. But the truth is that our ability to investigate this has been inhibited by our inability to look at the van that's been withheld from us. So the DNC is by their own action, is hindering our ability to do the kind of investigation that they say that they want.
That's totally bizarre. The DNC's phone number, 202-863-8000, if you are inclined to call. Debbie Wasserman Schultz's congressional office is 202-225-7931.
Right? Bernie Sanders
202-225-7931.
We're running a campaign to transform America. So people who work on this campaign have to understand that even the appearance of something that's not right is too much. And so we did let that staffer go. I think that was a clear signal that we take this very, very seriously, both with respect to our data and other people's data. We will certainly not use anybody else's data or retain anybody else's data. The DNC is clearly acting in a heavy-handed way, in an unprecedented way. I would like to see another instance where a presidential campaign had their data withheld, their own data withheld under similar circumstances. So,
this is Jeff Weaver, by the way. He's the Sanders campaign manager.
2 months ago, we found out when we were downloading some of our data that it was dumping a bunch of other campaigns' data along with ours, which clearly indicated that the firewall between the campaigns was ineffective. Right? We immediately segregated that information at our vendor, put it in a password-protected file. So that we could document that, in fact, there had been a breach, because we were very concerned that large amounts of our own data was being downloaded, and we contacted the DNC to remedy the situation. They assured us, we run down here to all of you all, We talked to them, and we were assured that this was going to be taken care of. But apparently, they are not competent in terms of maintaining the security of data between the campaigns.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz's
What's
phone
that?
number 202-225-7931. The DNC
Sure,
main
all I
number
can tell you, I don't know the motivation of
202-863-8000.
every single person over the DNC, but I think if you look at a pattern of conduct, we've obviously had concern about the Saturday night debate schedule and its impact on the ability of campaigns to get their message out. Clearly, there's in this case, it looks like they are trying to help the Clinton campaign. We're taking on the establishment, and I'm sure there are people within the Democratic establishment who are not happy about the overwhelming success that Senator Sanders is having all across this country.
Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. The Jeff Weaver, who is the campaign manager for the Sanders campaign, coming out saying, that's it, guys. We told you back in October that not only were we able to access other campaigns' data, but they apparently were downloading our data, and we asked the DNC to put an end to it, and they didn't. Or they said that they did, but obviously they didn't, because once again, the firewall was down recently. And, he's basically saying Debbie Wasserman Schultz, whose phone number in Congress, her congressional number is 202-225-7931, and the Democratic National Committee, Jeff Weaver is just coming right out and saying, the way that they scheduled these debates on, the Saturday night that Star Wars comes out and it's the last shopping Saturday night before Christmas and everything, is just this. These are my words, not his, but he was speaking to this issue. He said that there's a clear bias on the part of the DNC toward the Clinton campaign and against the Sanders campaign, and he's not taking it anymore. The telephone number, if you would like to call the DNC and let them know what you think of this, and maybe you're all in favor of the Sanders campaign being censured and not having access to the data that they themselves collected and they themselves paid for, you can call the DNC at 202-863-8000. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here, and please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.